very sad news to tell the sports world. The LA Times is reporting that retired Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Kobe Bryant has been killed in a helicopter crash.
Weather conditions deteriorated once again going into the weekend along the southeastern coast of Australia. 250,000 people.
Restrictions on vaping products, the FDA banning the sale of most kinds of flavored e-cigarette cartridges. But the plan backs off of the more sweeping changes President Trump first proposed, and health officials say it doesn't go far enough to protect young people.
Another round of key voting ahead on Tuesday. 6 states are up for grabs, with Michigan, of course, being the biggest prize. The campaign is now a clear two-man.
Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. He is on the front lines here in the U.S. response to the coronavirus outbreak. Dr. Fauci, good morning. It's good to have your time, sir.
Good morning.
First of all, I mean, as we know, the World Health Organization just declared this a global health emergency. For Americans who are watching this, how serious is this? How serious is this?
Coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China.
And to the major disruptions across this country tonight. More signs of the world's biggest economy actually shutting down, children home from school. Now 8 states, as I mentioned, canceling school in their states. Empty shelves across this country at grocery stores, and more major sporting events have now been canceled.
Throughout the country, more protests today from New York to California. Tens of thousands remembering George Floyd and demanding change.
Did the presenter ever say that Juul was safe?
Yes.
Texas is joining 14 other states by raising the minimum age to purchase tobacco products to 21 years old.
That's what we have in Texas as a group of young leaders who have a passion about making sure that their generation is tobacco and nicotine free, that they will be leaving it healthier than when they started.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 4th Say What Summit. If you've been to one of our summits before, welcome back. If not, I'm happy for you to join us this Saturday. This year, our goal is to call out big tobacco for all of their lies and deceptive tactics that has caused many people to vape. Today, we are going to teach y'all how to prevent this as being an advocate. Now, before we meet everybody and get started, I wanted to say that today's summit is going to be very interactive. So please pay attention and participate, and we will have a lot of fun. With that being said, let's meet our wonderful teen ambassadors.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go! Hey everyone, my name's Kayla Madrid, and welcome to my All About Me vlog.
My name is Max Castillo, and I'm from Brownsville, Texas.
What's up, guys? I'm Tanea. I'm a second-year teen ambassador for Say What.
My name's Kellen Crook. I'm from Luckin, Texas.
Hi y'all, I'm Janea.
a senior in high school, and a fun fact about me is that I will be attending Baylor. I can't wait to get started.
Hi everyone, it's Max. It's Max here. This is my first year as a TA, sorry, and I'm so excited to be here at today's summit, the fourth summit. A fun fact about me is that my dream college is Georgetown University in DC.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kayla. I'm a second-year teen ambassador. I'm super excited to have you all here, so I can't wait to get started.
Hello everyone, my name is Kellen Crook. I am a junior at Texas State University, and a fun fact about me is I get to testify on Monday. So a lot of what you'll be hearing in this summit will be relating to testimony. So let's get started.
Okay, so the Say What program is run by the staff at the Texas School Safety Center at Texas State University, guys. The Texas School Safety Center serves all K-12 schools and junior colleges throughout the state. They do this by conducting research on all things school safety, as well as conducting training and helping schools create a positive school environment. So thank you for all your hard work. We want to get to know you through this presentation and even after, so connect with us on our Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Snapchat at Texas Say What. So now that you know how to connect with us after the summit, we want to know how to connect with you during the summit. Okay, so now that we're all here, what exactly is Say What? Say What's an organization that speaks and educates youth on vaping across Texas. So I want you guys to open up the chat box and tell me if you know what Say What stands for. If you guys don't know what Say What stands for, that's perfectly fine, guys. Say What stands for Students, Adults, Youth Working Hard Against Tobacco. So Say What's an organization made up of youth and adults and students who are trying their best to educate their communities about harmful effects of tobacco. There are so many great and fun components that make up Say What, and one of them is the amazing Teen Ambassador, guys. As Teen Ambassadors, we work hard to give you the best possible information on tobacco prevention. We do this through our vlogs, summits like this one, and the conference. Well, last summit, we learned a lot of things about big tobacco, didn't we?
Yeah, Max, we definitely did learn a lot of things about big tobacco. And if you missed out on that summit, don't worry, because I'm going to be going over a recap of all the dirty laundry that the TAs were presenting on last summit. The TAs talked about the targeted marketing and advertising towards youth, and discussed how e-cigarettes have evolved over the time and how they have designed their products and packaged them, make their the flavors more susceptible to being promoted more often, the false health claims that they make, and how they have created social influence. The TAs also talked about how this industry is regulated and some scary marketing predictions for the future. After reading this brief talk about last summit, you're probably wondering, Jadea, how do I become a tobacco prevention advocate? Well, guess what? You're at the perfect summit, because this summit, we're going to be talking about the levels of advocacy and how you can become an advocate. Today, we will be going over advocacy, as I just said, what it means to you, and what it looks like. Then we'll show you 3 levels of advocacy and how you can level up. We'll also talk about peer pressure and social influence, because in order for us to be the best tobacco prevention advocates possible, we have to know how to resist peer and social pressures of trying these dangerous products. Then we'll get into the details of what level 1 really is, and you'll hear from a super special guest speaker that I can't wait for you guys to hear from.
So all of y'all are saying you want to be great advocates, but what does it mean to be a great advocate? So go ahead and use the chat again and tell me what being a great advocate is. So take a few seconds and I'm gonna tell you what a great advocate means to me. So a great advocate to me is somebody who stands up for what they believe in, and they will not back down even when they're pressured into backing down. So I hope y'all had that in your minds, even if you didn't put it in the chat, that you know what a great advocate means to you. And you all seem like pretty amazing advocates already with how determined you are to be great advocates. And now we're just going to go into some more depth about advocacy itself, because advocacy is not only a tool for us as individuals, but also in our community, as we can see in this next video.
What is advocacy? It'd be easy to think that advocates are out in the political world, separating right from wrong, us from them. But it'd also be incorrect. Advocacy provides a voice for the community to inspire system-wide change. It puts the views of those who need to be heard in front of those who need to hear them, in hopes of seeing a better world for all. And it's working. Because of advocates, Americans have better access to safe drinking water, healthcare, equal work opportunities, and so much more. But they weren't alone. They had support from a community that cared about these issues and wanted to see a change. A community full of people like you. So why support advocates? Because advocacy is an essential part of leaving this world better than we found it.
Well, from that video, now we know what advocacy means to you all, as well as what it means to the community, because advocacy really starts with just a small group of people, and it has the ability to work itself up as far as it can go. And so those are some big ideas, but maybe it's important that we take a few steps back and remember what the dictionary definition of advocacy is. So, an advocate is a person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. So a good example of that is what we're doing right now, right here in this summit. Because advocacy is basically an activity by a person or group that aims to influence decisions, advocacy efforts impact our politics, our economy, and our society. And in this picture, we see a group doing just that. The people on this screen are Tobacco 21 ambassadors who were advocating for Texas to raise the legal smoking age from 18 to 21. We even have one of our own consultants, Kellen Crook, in this picture. He's up at the very, very top if you're looking for him. Kellen, would you mind telling us a little bit more about your efforts with this group?
Of course. Thanks, Kayla. We were the Texas 21 Youth Coalition, and we were focused on raising the sale age of tobacco products to 21 years old. We first started by all advocating in our different communities all across Texas. Then we went to the Capitol. At the Capitol, we had a Texas 21 Day where we got to meet and or hand out information to every single representative and senator at the Capitol. I personally got to go to the Capitol a couple times to testify to the House and Senate hearings on the bill. This was a great experience and a great example of how a group can be great advocates.
Thank you, Kellen, so much for sharing about your efforts with us. I'm sure we all enjoyed hearing about your time with this in this group. And now that we've gotten an example from you, maybe Max can give us some more ideas about what advocacy looks like.
So I want you guys to open up the chat box and tell me what pops in your head when you hear the word advocacy. For me, when I first heard this word, I thought of protests like some people do. I also thought of rallies or even changing laws. Well, a lot of times people think that marches or rallies or even changing laws is one part, but there's so much more to advocacy. So advocacy can be increasing awareness throughout your community by doing interviews with local news channels or radio shows and sharing your story and why you are passionate about your cause. It can be engaging your community and collecting signatures of support, conducting street activism activities, or even cleaning tobacco litter. But most importantly, it's about educating others, you guys. It's attending a town hall meeting, a school board meeting, and presenting your knowledge and concerns about the issue. It's educating as many of your peers and community members, as possible. It's where becoming an advocate begins. But there's still so much more about becoming an advocate, right?
Yeah, Max, there definitely is a lot more about becoming an advocate. Actually, there's 3 levels of becoming an advocate. As you guys can see on the screen, the first level we have is education. Education is important because you need to know your facts before you're able to state them. This makes you credible. As you educate yourself, you're not only educating yourself the way, you're educating others, which is very important to keep in mind. It's very common here that as we grow, we're still learning, and it continues throughout the ages. We never do stop learning. Very important to keep in mind that we need to educate ourselves properly before we go and advocate. So this is why it's very important, and it's the first level of advocacy. The second level is engagement. You need to engage with your community or your school advisors in order to be able to make public statements, whether that be in your school, doing a presentation, giving out presentation to classes, or little things like that. You guys need to be able to engage with the crowd and use your voice to get out there. Third level is policy. The last final being awesome advocate. And this level is very important because you start to do, as you guys were saying in the chat, you started to speak to your representatives, you started to go to the legislators, and you start to represent higher levels, and you start to go up into the community as you become a policy advocacy. But in order to get to this last and third final level, you do need to properly educate yourself to state the facts and use your voice that you've learned from engagement, and use all the things that you have learned since then to hone your voice and become a great policy advocacy. But now that we've talked about that, let's focus a little bit more on education. As you guys can see, education is the first level, so we will be mainly covering education throughout the summit, but we will also be talking about leveling up. So as we're leveling up throughout the summit, there are 3 steps to getting to the second level. The first step is credibility. The second one is perfecting your voice, and the third step is believing in yourself. So as I've said multiple times, if you're not confident in what you're presenting on or what you're speaking on, no one else is really going to believe you. If you're confident in what you're saying, what you have to say, and you know the facts, everyone will understand you, and they'll see how passionate that you are about what you're speaking on, and they'll believe you. They'll follow you, and they'll join your cause in what you're trying to do. This has happened many times to me where I'm speaking the facts or just talking in general about what I think is right, and especially about talking about big tobacco and all their dirty laundry, whether that be to friends or random strangers that I meet when I'm handing out applications to join my youth group and things like that. When I'm confident in what I'm saying and I'm passionate, they're more prone to asking for the application to join my youth group, which is awesome when they ask for more information. So that we've talked about that, look, can you brush a little bit more into what credibility?
Yes, we're going to learn about credibility today as well. So in this section, we're going to teach you all how to become a credible advocate. We're going to show you all the resources that us TAs use when developing presentations, just like this one today, as well as several resources that we use to constantly stay up to date. We're also going to show you how the tobacco industry is always trying to influence the facts and data to create the wrong information and trick us into sharing it. But now you're probably asking me, Kayla, does it really matter if my information is credible? And why does it even matter? But long story short, it absolutely does matter that everyone knows that the information that they're sharing and learning is 100% credible. You never want to be presenting information that isn't factual or up to date. This can harm your credibility and will make it difficult for people to listen to you when you're advocating. And that brings up the second question on the screen. How can I tell if the information is even credible? How are we supposed to give factual presentations when we don't know what kind of info is credible? And now let's go ahead and answer both of those questions, because generally .edu and .gov websites are credible sources for us to use. The Say What website is also a credible source because we're a part of the Texas State University system. It's also very, very, very important to note that some .com websites can be credible resources, as long as they have research-based information and are not made up of just opinions. As well as some .coms, nonprofit websites can also have reliable information as well. And a really common misconception is that Wikipedia is a great resource, but that's not exactly true, because anyone can hop online and edit a Wikipedia article. That means that if I really wanted to, I could hop off right now, go on Wikipedia and write that we are having this summit on Mars. We're having lunch with the Martians, even if that's not true. And all of this means that Wikipedia is a non-credible source because of how easy it is to edit the information. And we always want to be educated on the correct tobacco prevention information and be up to date with it. Because of the novelty of vapes, the amount of information that is being published every day, and the danger of vaping that is becoming more and more apparent, it's really, really important for us to know the facts. So now I want to test you all out a bit on this new information that we learned. On this next slide, we're going to see a website, and I want you all to tell me if it is a credible source. So go ahead, open up the chat bar, and let me know if reddit.com is a credible source. I'll give you all a few seconds for that. Just quick yes or no if Reddit is a reliable source. Andrea is saying no. Okay, anybody else? Feel free to answer. Erica said no. Well, you guys got it. Joanna, Sophie, Andrea, you all got it. This is not a credible source. This website is Reddit, which allows people to go on and make random threads of conversations to talk about whatever, like us having this virtual summit with the Martians. People on Reddit are allowed to post stuff like this whenever they want, even if it's non-factual information. For example, one of the screenshots on the screen is a question starting the thread, "Can someone link me or explain why vaping is not bad for your health?" And the image on the bottom answers them, saying that vaping isn't harmful and that there hasn't been a documented medical case from vaping. However, in 2018 alone, there were over 60 different youth hospitalized from vaping. And sadly, one of our own here from Texas passed away. So all of this, plus the fact that it is a .com website, makes Reddit a really untrustworthy source. So now I want to see if you all can tell me if this next site is credible. So this website is the cdc.gov. So tell me in the chat if you would use this as a credible website. Andrea says yes. Okay, let's see. Anybody else have any guesses? I'm seeing a lot of yeses there. All right. You all are getting so good at this. This is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as the CDC, and it is an example of a credible website. So it's important to note how this is a government website. And this site is actually a widely known source for clear and factual information. This means that it is up to date and credible. There's a lot of information that we at Say What use from the CDC, and it's a really great resource for presentations just like this one. And besides the CDC, we want to give you all some more trustworthy sites to find information on the harmful effects of vaping. So I want you all to go ahead and take a screenshot of this picture or a picture of this slide to save for later. I'm going to give you all a few seconds. Websites like Tobacco Free Kids and the Truth Initiative are really great for the most part on staying up to date on tobacco prevention. So I hope you all are getting that screenshot in of these credible websites. Alrighty, I hope you all got that screenshot. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about sources like infographics and educational videos. Infographics are graphic visual representations of information or data. They're often easy on the eyes and are really simple to understand. This example is from the Say What website, but other organizations like the American Lung Association or the American Heart Association have really great and nice infographics. Besides from being great resources from us to learn from, they also make really great tools to help educate others because of the simple language and format that they use. Educational videos are also pretty fantastic and are exactly like the name sounds. They're videos that educate us on certain topics. Some videos interview experts, some tell a personal story, and some draw a concept like the image above. When this summit is posted to the Say What website and YouTube, it will become an educational video. But you just got to be careful when looking for educational videos because not all videos on YouTube are credible. And some other sources that we can use are research-based sources. So these include scholarly articles and studies, which can be accessed online or in person. These types of resources have been written by scientists, doctors, and other professionals who have investigated a specific topic of interest, and then their research is peer-reviewed. So this basically means that other scholars made sure that the work in the article by the original author was done correctly. Great ways to access these articles are through Google Scholar. I personally use Google Scholar a lot for my research. You can also use the school library or even the local public library. Research-based information can come in many different forms, but it's important to use information that is as current as possible. The recommended expiration date that we set for ourselves is 10 years. So, if the information is older than 10 years, you can probably find a newer article on the topic or research somewhere else. And now I hope you all were listening to that last part, because now I want you all to tell me which of these two sites you would use to be the most credible advocate. So option A is from 2020 and option B uses data from 2011 to 2015. So take a moment to look at these and tell me in the chat which option you would use. Let's see, Janaea said she would do option A. Lori said option A. Okay, I'm seeing those A's coming in. Well, you guys are absolutely correct. It would be best to use option A because it uses data from 2020, while option B is from 2011 through 2015. Option A is also from a credible source, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. And for the most part, they have a lot of information that is up to date, as well as factual graphics. But besides this, it's really important to watch out for biased research as well. So as people, we all have a bias, and a bias basically means that we favor one side of an issue over the other. And sometimes research is funded by big tobacco or vape companies. The research funded by them often has some pretty nasty underlying objectives, like trying to make money off of the youth. This research may not be all that accurate and is really biased because they only report the information that makes them look good. So in a nutshell, big tobacco's bias is trying to make sure that us youth keep smoking, even if they have to spend big money on research to do it. And it's really, really important to be on the lookout for fake news like this because it can easily create misleading information that can lie about how healthy tobacco products are, even though we know they're not healthy. So this infographic gives us some really simple ways to look out for fake news. So go ahead and take a picture or a screenshot of this one as well. Because among other things, looking out for fake news means checking the sources to make sure they're credible, checking when it was published, as well as checking our biases and the bias of the source. So I hope you all got that screenshot, and oh my goodness, that was a lot of information at once. But I want to know real quick, which of the credible sources that we've seen so far are you all most likely to use next? So while you all answer in the chat, I want to ask Janaea, what sources will you be using next?
I definitely think, Kayla, now that you've talked about the CDC a little bit more in depth, I'll definitely be using that on some of my research, considering that I am in the health field. So the CDC does provide a lot of great information that is credible and that I will be using in the future.
So step 2 of level 1 is all about perfecting your voice, and that means working on your communication skills. We're not talking about how you communicate with your parents, teachers, and friends, although this section might help with that. We're talking about the skills that are needed to share the information you have learned. So the first thing you need to know your audience. So the 4 questions you should be asking yourself is, who do you want to talk to? Where do they hang out? Where do they get their information from? And what media do they consume? Asking yourself these questions is important in figuring out whether you want to talk to the general public as a whole or different groups of the public. Answering these questions will also help you enhance your communication skills and create a clear call to action. In advocacy work, the 2 main audiences you will be communicating to is usually our community members and decision makers, but we'll go more into detail about that in our last virtual summit. So the next thing you need to know is stating clear objectives. It's another important skill, to develop. In order to mobilize and support your cause, it helps to create a sense of importance. People are more likely to jump on board and support a cause that is worth fighting for if they feel connected to it. A powerful way to get an advocacy message across is to use facts, statistics, research, and your own personal connection to why you're advocating for an issue. An emotional narrative will also resonate with your audiences. Later on today, you'll create your own my why statement that can be used when communicating your efforts. The next one is listening. It seems simple enough, but listening is probably the most important skills developing your communication strategies. Listening is a key to all effective communication. Without the ability to listen effectively, your message can be easily misunderstood. As a result, communication breaks down and wrong messages gets across and your efforts can be lost. It's like the game of telephone. So if you don't know the game of telephone, basically one person starts out with the saying and says it to the person next to them and so on and so on. By the time it reaches the last person, the message has completely changed. And that is because someone did not listen properly in between. So when you're listening to others as an advocate, you need to give your full attention. I can't stress this enough. Always give your full attention and focus on what the person is saying to you. Listen to their main ideas and don't interrupt. Don't interrupt, guys. It's very important that you pay attention, like I said before. It's also important to ask questions or respond to the main ideas and don't, sorry. It's important to ask questions and respond to what they have said. Another way you can learn how to use your voice is speaking up. It can be as simple as giving morning announcements at your school, posting on social media, or writing an opinion piece to your local newsletter. When it comes to increasing awareness about dangers of vaping and encouraging others to live a healthy tobacco-free lifestyle, social media is the perfect tool, especially now with COVID-19, people can't gather in big groups. Not only can you connect across the country, but advocates and youth leaders can play critical roles in communicating the importance of living vape-free. Creating a social media campaign or a public service announcement can help your voice and your ideas reach even more people than in person. Social media campaigns not only promote your youth group's efforts or school community, but they educate as many people as possible. Video blogs or vlogs allow you to discuss your thoughts and opinions about advocacy efforts. You can visit our Speak Up page on our website and download guides for both of these tools. And lastly, your local media is a valuable resource. It's important to build a good relationship with your local media because they have the ability to promote your advocacy efforts and keep it as a focus. Creating a research with your local media will help you spread your message to the farthest parts of your community, guys. You can submit a letter to the editor discussing your concerns about vaping or invite local media to the next school communities or projects, Either option keeps your efforts at a forefront and gives the media opportunity to highlight you and your group efforts. Say What has all kinds of downloadable tools to help you build a relationship with your local media. Just visit the Speak Up page and download the guide and you and your youth group needs. So are you guys ready to use your new and improved voice? If so, can I get a let's go in the chat? Well, if you're guys, I see let's go. Yes, let's go. I'm excited to use my new improved voice. I know everyone is excited to use their new and improved voice, but there's one more step to master level one of advocacy.
Awesome. Now that you've gone over communication, Max, we've learned about being credible. We've learned about being perfecting our voices as we go on. If we don't believe that we have the capability to do so, nothing will change. This comes into building your confidence. As I talked about earlier, if you're not confident in what you're speaking about, no one will believe what you're saying. There are two things that will always challenge our confidence to be strong, credible advocates, and that's peer pressure and social pressure. So let's take a look at this video to see how social pressures and social influence do change how people do and how people act.
Think you're a natural born leader? Well, you might be surprised. Your brain is hardwired to follow the pack. You want to see what I mean? Check this out. That thing, do you have the piece of rope? It's below. Just go under? Yeah, just go under. Just go underneath, it's all good. Just go under, guys. Great. Yeah, just go under. Yeah, thanks, guys. You guys just go in, it's fine. Just go under, guys. Thank you. Wow, almost everybody we tested played along with our follow the leader game. You can try it at home too. All you need is an invisible piece of rope or a pane of glass.
So after watching that video, even though it was really funny and I did share a few laughs, as I'm sure you guys did behind your screens, there's a lot of truth to how peer pressure and social influence our lives. There's also a big difference between the two, and one in particular the tobacco industry uses to get us to use their products. Let's take a look at what the difference is. So as you guys can see, we have peer pressure in blue and social pressure in green. As you guys can sure read some of the differences, I'm going to be going over some of my own. So whether you're a youth or an adult, we all face peer pressure at some point in our lives. It doesn't just come from our friends. It can come from family members like cousins and coworkers that are all within your same age group. Social pressure is combined pressures that influence us on a daily basis, like pop culture, what we see on social media, what the norms are in your school or community, and what expectations may exist at home or within your culture. In the end, both pressures are constantly thrown at us, and both are very influential. While peer pressure and social pressure can be bad for us and change the way we behave, like not wearing a seatbelt or riding in a car with friends, it can also be good for us, like encouraging friends to save money for a fun summer trip that they're saving up for. So while we're on the topic of that, let's move on and see how, if you guys can tell the difference between peer pressure and social pressure. So I'm going to read some examples for you guys, as you guys can see on the screen, and you guys are just going to type in the chat and let me know whether you think they're peer pressure or social pressure. The first example is, you and your best friend have been stressed out all week because you had 2 tests and 1 group project due. It's finally Friday and you're walking home with your best friend. While on the way home, your friend suddenly stops and pulls out a vape and starts puffing on it. After a couple of puffs, he keeps talking about how good it tastes and asks you to vape as well. He says it helps him relieve his stress, and he knows that you've been stressed out too and doesn't want to vape alone. Is this considered peer pressure or social pressure? Let me know in the chat. So I see Joanna saying peer pressure. Kayla's questioning it. Is it peer pressure? Is it social pressure? Andrea is saying peer pressure. So for the most part, you guys are all correct. It is an example of peer pressure because his friend is encouraging him to try something that is not so good for him. And will he give into it? We don't know, but this would be a good example of peer pressure. So now that we've read peer pressure, let's go into another example. It's lunchtime and everyone is talking about this video of a guy from school vaping on Snapchat. When you get home from school, you decide to follow him because you thought his vape tricks looked cool. You're clicking through a bunch of Snapchat stories and you start to notice a lot of people are posting about vaping. Even people on your Snapchat are vaping and continue to post about it. The more you go through Snapchat, the more you think you should be vaping as well. So you decide to try someone's vape at school the next day. Is this peer pressure or social pressure? Let me know in the chat. So Joanna's saying social pressure. Okay, so for the most part, this would be a good example of that, but it also is kind of confusing as well because you are seeing people, so it goes in hand with like, is it peer pressure? Is it social pressure? But since it is on a social media platform that's being spread around, it is an example of social pressure because even though the people that are posting about it may just think it looks cool, they are influencing others in some type of way and affecting others' lives. Like this one that decided to try it the next day at school. It does influence someone whether they notice it or not. So this would be an example of social pressure. As we move on, we've talked about peer pressure and social influence, but let's talk about how we're going to fight peer pressure and how do we say no to that. So to begin, on fighting peer pressure, it's very important to either change the subject or simply say no and walk away, but also keep in mind the dangers and effects of it. So while we're going on that topic, let's see how younger youth say no and how they stand up for themselves. Peer pressure is, and they stand up for themselves. It's time to make sure that we have the ability to speak up and stand out for ourselves as well, just like they did for themselves. Let's talk about making refusal skills and how to develop them. Refusal skills and statements can be used when one is being peer pressured to do something that may be harmful or just something they don't want to do. These will help us combat peer pressure and be able to continue to stand up, speak up, and be nicotine free. We're going to go through various tips on what to do when creating your refusal statements. Kayla, is there any way you can help me out with those tips?
Yeah, Janaea, we actually have a lot of tips to help you guys become the best advocates and have the best refusal statements ever. So, the first tip really is to be confident, otherwise known as being assertive. We want to make sure that we assert ourselves and stand our ground. This means using an assertive tone and body language when stating your position, like confident facial expressions, hand gestures, and standing up nice and tall. The second tip is to make sure that you clearly state your position. You do not want to leave your position foggy because the person you're talking to might argue with you or keep pushing for you to give in. And the third tip is to back up your initial response with facts and reasons. Because sure, it's great that you look confident and that you can explain what you're talking about, but if you don't have the facts, your argument can be a really weak one. Facts and stats make your claim pretty powerful. And a great way to do this is to simply state a fact, like 77 Texans die every day from smoking. And here are some other facts that can easily be used in various situations. You can also include personal reasons as to why you don't want to vape, because maybe a family member is struggling with a nicotine addiction and you don't want to go through the same thing. Personal stories really bring out the emotion in us, and this is really effective because we're only human. We've all got emotions, and it's one of the things that we respond best to. And the fourth tip is to suggest a totally different activity than smoking or vaping. This is because a lot of the times we just get bored and we try to do an activity that isn't great for us. Because again, we're only human. Our attention spans are kind of short, so coming up with other things to do can be an easy way not only for you to get out of this activity, but everyone else too. And another great tip is to change the subject altogether. So maybe you can tell a joke because humor is the best way to respond to a situation sometimes, and it can even lighten a serious mood. And sometimes you might be worried that you sound like a broken record, but that's totally okay because honestly, sometimes people are just stubborn and you must repeat yourself a few times to get your point across. Just try and stay polite about it. But don't worry if you start to feel like a broken record repeating yourself. So, alrighty, now that we have all of these tips on how to say no, it's time to practice. So now I'm going to read the following scenario, and one of my fellow TAs is going to tell me what they would do in this situation. So, scenario 1. A group of your friends are going to skip lunch so that they can vape in the bathroom. They ask you to come, but you don't know if you should. You don't vape, but you are kind of curious about e-cigarettes. Janaea, what would you do in this situation?
In this situation, I would take some time to re-educate my peers, tell them about the dangers of e-cigarettes, and of course eat my chicken nuggets. Why would I want to skip lunch? I love my chicken nuggets.
Totally. That is a great way to start out your refusal statement. So if you wanted to put all together what Janaea said, we can say this. Hey friends, I really don't think that's a good idea for us. I started to think of all the harmful effects that come with the use of e-cigarettes, like addiction, lung problems, and anxiety. I honestly value my health more than curiosity, so thanks, but no thanks. Maybe we can just all go to the cafeteria and see if they have our favorite chicken nuggets instead. So thank you, Janaea, for that refusal statement. And now we're going to try again with this next scenario. So scenario 2 reads, you're the newest member on a sports team, and all of the players vape before and after practice. They offer you a puff from their vape and say that if you don't do it, you're not really a part of the team, and they'll give you a hard time throughout the rest of the season. Max, what would you do in this situation?
I would say no thank you, and that if they want to give me a hard time, I won't join the team, or I'll just go to the coach since we can't be a team if we're just being mean to each other, and re-educate them on the harmful effects of vaping.
Yeah, Max, those are all really good things to say in this situation. So again, if we want to put that all together, Max could say, hey team, I'm not interested in vaping, and you shouldn't be either. Vaping is really harmful and can cause lung problems. As athletes, I don't think we should do this as it can hurt our performance. If you really want to give me a hard time, I will go to the coach about this issue, because how can we be a team if y'all are trying to make me do things that I don't want to do? So now it's your guys' turn. After we just saw what the TAs did, you all are going to share your refusal statements for this scenario with us, either by raising your hand or putting them in the chat. So I'm going to read this, and then I want you all to give me your best refusal statement for this one. So you are at your best friend's house with a few other classmates from history class studying for a final together. Y'all decide to take a break, so you help your best friend gather some snacks while everyone else goes outside. When you and your best friend take the snacks outside, everyone is vaping. They turn to you and ask you and your friend if y'all would like to take a puff. What do you do? So now you all are going to have 5 minutes to create your refusal statements, and then we're going to share. So go ahead, take 5 minutes while we play some music for you guys. All right, I see that some of you already put yours in the chat. That's great. If you're still working on your refusal statement, don't worry. But for now, we're going to read a few of these in the chat. If you all want to come off of mute and share your refusal statement with us, don't be shy, because remember, part of being a great advocate is being confident. But if you don't feel like it today, I'm going to read some of these in the chat. So let's see. One person said, politely tell them no. I do not vape and have no interest in trying it out. I would mention that it is a harmful habit and maybe give some current info on dangers. And someone else said, no thanks. You do know that vaping affects your body and mind. It will most likely not help us prep for the final. So let's enjoy some of these snacks instead. Wow, you guys all have some really great refusal statements. I'm going to read one more. And this person said, no thank you. Vaping has harmful effects on your body and mind. Vaping right now is also inappropriate. Let's do what we were supposed to do and study. We have snacks inside. So thank you all so much for sharing. They were all really amazing refusal statements. And I want you all to go ahead and take a picture of this screen as well, and it will help you develop a refusal statement in the future. This is a really vital skill to work on, even when you're not on a Say What Summit. It's really important to hone in this skill and be true advocates for your beliefs, because it's super important for us to ignore all the social pressures around us. Right, Max?
Yes, it's super important. So social pressure is always around us. It's hard to fight or go against, and Big Tobacco knows this fact, and they use this knowledge for their advantage to sell more products and reach even more customer guys. So I want you guys to open the chat box and type in the chat about a time you felt socially influenced to do something. For me, I felt socially influenced to download TikTok since all my friends and family were getting it and sending me funny TikToks. It's like same, like TikTok for me was super addicting. I never have time to do homework because I can just spend hours and hours on my phone scrolling, just going through all the funny videos. Well, I have a video to show you guys about tobacco and Hollywood.
Must you really smoke?
I love it so very much.
It's shockingly effective.
That sucks.
Got an extra cigarette? Who got a cigarette in here? Anyone got a cigarette at the bar?
By making these products look cool and sexy in movies and TV shows, youth are 3 more times likely to start to vape, guys. Not only do they influence pop culture, through Hollywood, but they also create social pressure through social media and pop culture. Miley Cyrus, Bella Hadid, Sophie Turner are few examples of celebrities who are known for their vaping habits. But these habits aren't just personal choice. They fit into a larger picture of vaping companies using celebrities and influencers to appeal to younger consumers. Juul developed the roster to promote their devices. They sent free e-cigarettes, to Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, Jennifer Lawrence, and teams with big social media audiences such as Lucas Sabat and Claudia Usher. Starting in 2015, big tobacco companies spent more than $1 million to market their products through paid advertising on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The ads consisted of lifestyle-related content, youth-related content such as slang, memes, celebrity references, and school-related posts that engage users, promoting them to tag their friends in these posts. The effect of these posts have been to create social norms around these products and romanticize Juul as a lifestyle choice, socially pressuring youth into juuling. So I want you guys to open up the chat box and tell me if you like a phone case, jewelry, getting your nails done, or any type of accessory. For me, my favorite thing is an accessory, especially bracelets. I love always having a bracelet on me. See, Kayla said her nails for sure. Yes, bracelets. People are agreeing with me. I just love bracelets. I don't know, I can go on. Someone like you guys need to watch all the time. I really don't do watches, but that's just like a personal choice for me. Necklaces. So I see like people are more on the jewelry side, but did you know that e-cigarettes accessories is another thing that Big Tobacco created, trying to make e-cigarettes look cool again. Think about everyone that goes to Starbucks and then posts selfies with Starbucks. It's like an accessory instead of a drink. The tobacco industry has made things like Juul Sins, vape holders, and anti-slip rings for mod vapes to make you think it's an accessory to try to your outfit instead of a deadly product. By doing this, they made e-cigarettes seem socially acceptable, which encourages you to start vaping. Another way the tobacco industry creates social pressure is by targeting specific groups like the LGBTQ plus community. Since 1995, tobacco companies have been targeting the LGBTQ plus community, trying to convince them with their ads that they need tobacco in their lives. And here are 2 examples on your screen on how they use the words pride and freedom to socially influence this community to use their products. Using the words like pride and freedom are directly associated with the LGBTQ plus community because of their community's constant battle to feel proud of who they are and feel free to let people know who they are. And the LGBTQ plus community works really hard to feel this because a lot of them come from really dark places, like they're homeless from a young age or they had to hide who they truly are. But Big Tobacco uses this hard work against them. They use the pride that they feel against them and to just benefit their pockets, Big Tobacco pockets, and just get it. And to me, it's kind of sad that they do this. But there is a way to go against social pressure and stay true to yourself, isn't there?
Yes, Max. Being an advocate and talking about what we're passionate about can be really difficult sometimes. It can be difficult because it has us going against the currents of peer pressure and social pressure. However, going against the grain will help you all become a stronger advocate and a stronger individual overall. So, to help everyone learn about how you want to stick to your passion, we're going to be creating a My Why statement. But first, we're going to watch this quick video with a few examples of My Why statements.
I was at a robotics competition with my school. I was walking alone, and there was an elderly gentleman sitting on a bench trying to catch his breath. He sat me down and he told me why he had an oxygen tank. He was diagnosed with COPD 5 years ago. His left lung failed, his right lung is barely functioning because he spent 50 years smoking. He's just trying to live as long as he can because he has grandchildren now. And he's struggling trying to keep up with his family keep up with his grandchildren, go to their functions. I want people to quit using tobacco products. I just want people to have time to spend with their family, because that's something a lot of people don't consider.
Tobacco really hurts people, and it's terrible when it hurts the people you love, and you're trying to help them, but they don't want to listen. It really hits home because I lost my grandma to cancer a long time ago. And I still see my uncles and aunts, they still smoke cigarettes, and I have friends that vape. You know, I don't take part in it because I know how detrimental it is to your health. Like, it can really, really harm you. You're killing yourself. It's not like a quick suicide where you do something and that's it. It's like daily. It's like you're taking part in suicide every day.
My stepdad and my dad and a lot of my family members that I hang around with, like at the house, they smoke in the house or in the car, and it smells really bad, and it's just very harmful to their bodies, and it's hard to have a good time when they just have to go smoke every 20 to 30 minutes, and it makes them in an agitated mood if they don't get to, and I've seen what addiction does to them, and I don't really like to be around it, and I want to prevent it for other people. A lot of youth in my school personally use tobacco products such as Juuls and the vapes, and they don't really know, they just think it's cool, so they don't understand what the harm does on their body, and I like to allow them to have more information about it.
95% of adult smokers actually start smoking before the age of 21. So if we raise that age, then not only will we better the health of those in the future, we'll also help less people start smoking. About $1.9 billion of taxpayer money goes towards diseases and treatments for tobacco-related illnesses and things along that line, which comes out to about $750 annually per household. So if we bettered the health now, we could greatly decrease those prices in the future.
I feel as though living tobacco-free is important for my generation because stepping into the real world, it's up to us to create change. The past generations have used tobacco and not a lot of positive things have came from it. So I feel like as it's our turn to approach the real world, we can make a change for the better, and maybe tobacco won't even be a problem one day.
So like the people in this video, our why is the purpose, the cause, or the belief that drives what we do as advocates. Like, why should I be passionate about tobacco prevention? Obviously, you all are passionate to some degree because you're here with us today, but why should anybody care? Well, your why is what sets you apart from everyone else. It's your purpose, and it's what inspires you to take action. Your why is also what can inspire others to take action, to spread your ideas, or to get involved and take action with you. And now we're going to go through an activity that will help you all create your my why statements. So grab a piece of paper and a pencil while I explain, because we are about to start. So your why statement is the most effective possible way to share your purpose, not just with other people, but to yourself as well. Your why as an advocate is also the same as your personal why, because we are who we are wherever we are. It's the decisions that you make, the things that you accomplish, and the lifestyle that you live. And your why statement should be simple and clear, easy to take action on, focused on how you'll contribute to others, and expressed in confident and clear language that resonates with you. And I know, it seems like a lot, but your why statement should actually be able to fit all of this into one sentence. So here is the sentence format that we will be using. The first blank represents the contribution that you make to the lives of others, and the second blank represents the impact of your contribution. But in order to form your statement, you have to work backwards and start with your impact in mind. So we'll show you an example of a my why statement on the next slide and walk you through the steps. So this example says, to empower and educate people everywhere so that they can improve their lives by living nicotine-free. If we start with the end in mind, the impact is for everyone to improve their lives by living nicotine-free, and the contribution is to empower and educate them. The contribution is what you do to make the impact that you desire. So me, for example, my impact was passing a smoke-free ordinance in my town. So now I want you all to think about your impact, and we're going to take a minute and a half while we play some music so you all can write down your impact on your paper. So go ahead, take a minute and write down your impact. And now that we have our impact, which, like Kathleen said, it can be for your school, family, community, or even the world, we want to talk about our contribution. So, how did you get there, or how are you planning to get there? So, I personally got to my impact by educating and advocating within my community. So, now we're going to take about another minute and a half for you all to write down your contribution on your paper or in the chat. So, go ahead, take a minute and a half, and we're going to resume with some music. So now you all are doing a really good job. And Lori, you are actually one step ahead of us. So good job on that one. We're going to give you guys about 3 minutes to put your contribution and your impact together in the My Why statement format. We're going to give you guys about 3 minutes to rewrite that. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask you all if you would raise your hand to share with us or put it in the chat. So go ahead and take 3 minutes to put it all together like Lori did in the chat. All right, guys. So I hope you all had enough time to put together your My Why statement. When I put my why together, it said to educate and advocate in my community so that our smoke-free ordinance would pass. So if you all are willing to share, go ahead and raise your hand or put it in the chat because we're going to read a few of them from the chat. So Lori said to reduce and prevent the use of tobacco products so that they will live a healthy life without having to adapt to living to long-term problems or lose battles against cancer, as so many have in the past. Lori, that is a great example. Let's see what somebody else put. To give courage and high esteem so that they can care for themselves and know they are not alone. All right, guys, you all are doing great. And let's read one final one. To advocate against tobacco by means of education so that everyone can be aware and help bring awareness to the dangers of tobacco, which you bring upon yourself and the people surrounding you. You guys are so good at these statements, so thank you all for sharing. And now I want you all to remember that your My Why statements can change and evolve over time. Because as we grow as people and advocates, our passions and our focuses can change too. And that is totally okay and nothing to be ashamed of. And now I'm really wondering what we should do next with these. Janaea, do you think you can help us out?
Yes, so as Kayla was saying, you're probably wondering what's next. We've done a My Why, we've learned a lot about advocacy and how we can advocate for ourselves to become the best tobacco prevention advocate. So now it's time to put it all into action. But before we do that, we do have a special guest speaker who has spent years creating change in her school, community, and state. She's resisted peer and social pressure, is a credible advocate, and is very passionate about protecting others from the tobacco industry. So let's get a couple of encouraging messages in the chat as we welcome Allyssa Williams to the screen. Allyssa Williams is from Kissimmee, Florida, and since her childhood knew she was meant to lead. Growing up, Allyssa recognized that African Americans bear a heavy burden from tobacco use, and she was at risk too. This fueled her passion for tobacco control, and she has dedicated her energy and leadership over the past 6 years to fighting to protect youth, especially youth of color, from tobacco. Allyssa has advocated at the local, state, and federal level, including collecting postcards and testifying in support of maintaining funding for Florida's successful tobacco prevention program. She has also advocated for her U.S. representative to support the Reversing the Youth Tobacco Epidemic Act, which was a legislation passed by the U.S. House of Representatives that would eliminate flavored tobacco products. During high school, Allyssa served as vice president of her youth group, and she played a leading role in creating and launching her group's campaign, Not a Lab Rat. This campaign was created to combat misinformation about the youth e-cigarette epidemic, which was awarded the 2019 World No Tobacco Day Award from the World Health Organization. She was also featured in a national public service announcement for the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, highlighting the critical need to address menthol tobacco. Because of her efforts, she received the 2020 National Youth Advocate of the Year Award from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Let's get a few more encouraging messages as we welcome Allyssa Williams to the screen to do a quick Q&A with myself and some of the other TAs. Hi, Allyssa.
Hi, everybody. So nice to be here.
To get started, I am going to ask Allyssa some questions. So if you guys want to utilize the Q&A box as we do go through some of the questions. So while we're asking some questions, you guys can type some in the chat, and we'll be looking at the Q&A box as well to read the questions you have for Allyssa as we ask. So the first question I have, Allyssa, is from your bio. We know you're from Florida, but tell us a little more about yourself. Where did you go to school? What did you want to get your degree in? And anything else you would like to share with us?
Of course. So, yeah, I am from Kissimmee, Florida. And for those of you that don't know where that is, I'm right next to Orlando, where Disney is and Universal and things like that. I went to Osceola High School, home of the Cowboys, but I currently am a freshman at Howard University in BC. And right now, I am pursuing my degree in criminology. But, when you get to college, you start changing your mind on things. So if that stays, I don't know, but we'll see. And something that people really don't know about me is I'm actually an All-American cheerleader. So I do cheer on the side.
That's super interesting. So the next question we have is everyone's reason for getting involved in tobacco prevention is different. For some, it's a family member who smokes. For some, it's their friend who vapes. And another, it's because they want to make a difference. What was your reason for getting involved?
So I had a lot of reasons to get involved. The main one being is that I always grew up around tobacco. It was very normal in my family, and I come from a city where it is very normal. I mean, our school mascot is the Cowboys. That's what Cowboys do is they smoke. So it was kind of one of those, I don't want this to be normalized anymore. And then when I got to middle school, that's when we started noticing the e-cigarettes coming out and all these new devices. And it was one of those, this is not okay. And, people are making it seem cool, but it's not. So that's why I got into tobacco control, because I wanted to be that voice that led my peers to a tobacco-free future.
That's really awesome, Alyssa. I have another question for you. So you were talking about your high school. So while you were in high school, what did you do with yourself and your youth group to educate and increase awareness about tobacco prevention at your school and within your community?
Of course. So we did a lot of small events. It was very hard in the start because not many of my peers were so used to someone going against tobacco, which was something we were all so used to being in our lives. So a lot of things that we did, we had to, start small, start off with small meetings, and then we would do things that really catered to like what our peers wanted to do. Like we did movie nights and then we would focus on like, tobacco in movies, like you guys talked about earlier. And eventually when we started getting more members, we could do bigger events like holding like educations in the park, bigger parties and things like that, of course, before COVID, but yeah.
Wow, Alyssa, those are definitely some great ways that you've utilized it. I'll definitely be taking some of those back and using them in my youth group. Well, I do have another question for you though. So sometimes hosting projects for your school can be difficult. What advice or tips do you have for youth groups who are having a hard time getting approval from school administrators or teachers to host a project?
Definitely stay persistent. I was definitely that kid in high school that administrators hated because I never let anything go. If you ever, I always think of it like this, what's the worst thing somebody could tell you? No. And when they do, ask them why, and then figure out how you can fix that issue and just keep pushing. Majority of the time when someone tells you no, it's either because they themselves don't know how to, fix the issue at hand. So just be that kid that's like, no, you know what, I really want to do this. So, okay, I'll fix this and I'll come back later and then we'll discuss it again. So, just keep pushing and, stay confident, stay strong in what you want to do. And eventually it'll get done.
Well, that's like super helpful tips for me because I have a hard time with that. But as teens, there's so much pressure and temptation around us from friends and society. How are you able to resist peer pressure and social pressure to vape or use other tobacco products?
Right. So being completely transparent with you guys, it is okay to, sometimes be like, oh my gosh, I wonder what it would be like if I was, smoking, or what this vape would taste like. And a lot of times, when senior year came around, I was getting stressed and I would have those thoughts. A lot of things I would do is I would sit there and I'd be like, what am I thinking? I'm going to start a new hobby, and I would find something new to do. Or I would pick up something like right now I'm trying to pick up boxing. Don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll see. So just, stay true to yourself and just know, like, if it's really not, you don't want to do it and you know why you shouldn't do it. So find something else that you should do. And as for peers, just always try to be that supportive friend, because sometimes you don't always understand why someone is doing what they're doing. But I think the best way to change someone's mind or to be like their inspiration is to first try to understand where they're coming from and just try to support them on what they're doing.
That's really amazing that you came up with hobbies to do instead of getting involved with all that stuff. like we were earlier with our refusal statements, changing the topic. Now we have a question from the Q&A box, which you guys can send in questions for Allyssa from Joanna. She said, how has your experience in advocating in a tobacco-free society affected you?
As a person, it has definitely made me a lot more, I would say, confident in who I am, not just as an advocate, but as a person. And it has definitely taught me a lot of things. When advocating, you're always going to be met with people who don't agree with you and who want to sit there and argue with you or just won't listen to you in general. And I think that really pushes you not only to be like the better advocate, but to be a better person, because again, it comes from a lot of understanding and a lot of being comfortable in what you're doing and who you are. So I think it definitely built my character and helped me to be a stronger person. If somebody had asked me to be a guest speaker on a summit like 4 years ago, definitely wouldn't have done it. Probably would have never answered the email because I had just been too shy. But I mean, here I am. And now I would say, sometimes I do get nervous, but I'm definitely more comfortable knowing that I'm doing something right and that I can help others do the same.
Allyssa, that's very inspiring that you've said that. I love hearing that, and how much you've changed over the years. Saying a few years ago you probably would have shrugged it off. I would have too as well. Just thinking of being in this position, I was like, wow, like are they joking? Are they kidding? I was shocked. I was happy. I was feeling so many things. So it's just nice to know that you're never really alone in the feelings that you feel. I do have another question for you. The highest goal of advocacy work is policy change. And I know you've worked at the local, state, and federal level of doing these things. So what has been your experiences advocating for tobacco policy change?
I have so many to share, but honestly, it's difficult. It really is, but it kind of goes back to everything you guys were talking about in level 1, you're with the education. Just know what you're talking about. And I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid of the answer no, because you're going to hear it a lot. And sometimes it's not going to be in a nice way, and you just gotta push through. But one thing I can say is there's going to be certain people that you speak to, whether it is a decision maker or just their aide or assistant, that they're going to make you feel belittled or like the youth voice doesn't matter. And always remember this: there is nobody more important than a youth, because that is the one person that everyone really does want to listen to. And that's the one voice that's always going to matter. So even if someone is making you feel like, in this policy, like, oh, they're kids, they don't know what they're talking about. Yes, you do. And trust me, somebody out there is listening to you, even if it's not the person you're speaking to. Word travels fast in politics and all that stuff. So even if you're talking to someone that's turning you down, somebody else is noticing your efforts. And trust me, they'll reach out at some point and they'll be like, listen, I'm interested. Come to my office, let's talk about it, and things like that. So it always goes back to being persistent and just trusting yourself and what you're doing.
That's super helpful, especially like when people are just scared to hear the words no. But what advice or tips do you have for youth who want to work on policy advocacy for tobacco prevention in their home city or state?
Of course, always try to build a relationship with those that are like local to you. It's very important to kind of know the background history of who you're going to be speaking to or who's going to be in that meeting with you, even if it's small things like what high school they went to, because a lot of times when you're speaking to policymakers, they always try to like take you off topic to like, get your attention somewhere else so they don't really have to pay attention. But just being comfortable with like free conversation and being very confident that you can bring a conversation back to where it needs to be is one thing. And definitely knowing what you're talking about, because people will try to throw the randomest stuff at you and you'll just be like, do I know what I'm talking about? And always know what is a credible source, because a lot of times these decision makers, they'll go based off of, some of them are sponsored by tobacco companies. So sometimes they'll go based off of like, a very biased research study, and you just got to know and be like, well, actually, this is what is and this is what is not. So there's that. And of course, don't be afraid of the answer no, because a no somewhere is a yes somewhere else. So
it is super important. Oh, sorry, Janaea. Go ahead.
I definitely feel you with that, Allyssa. I do have another question though. What has been your favorite accomplishment so far? You've talked about doing all of this. You've been working for 6 years, so I'm sure you've racked up a lot of stories. Which one has been your favorite?
I've never been asked this question before, so honestly, I don't know. I'm very proud to be, the very first National Youth Advocate of the Year, and I think that that is my biggest self accomplishment goal because it was something individually that I won. So I want to say that, but I don't think it is. I think my favorite accomplishment was when my youth group won the WHO award because it made me feel like I had a family, like people who also believed in the same mission I did. And the sad part about my youth group is once you graduate high school, you can't be a part of this youth group, but it still knowing that like we had that award and I was a part of that team makes me feel like no matter what, like I know I'm leaving this group knowing that there's going to be more people coming in behind me fighting for the same thing. So I feel like that's probably my biggest accomplishment was being a part of something so great.
I have another question for you, Alyssa. So, you talked a little bit about what you do when people say no to you, but sometimes it just happens again and again and again. Do you feel beaten down sometimes, or how do you stay positive and optimistic about being an advocate when that happens?
Definitely. Even though I'm not afraid to hear the answer no, it doesn't mean that I don't get upset when I hear it. And sometimes you just gotta know, like, you just know in different incidences, like, it's gonna get better or, someone else is gonna say yes. But definitely in the times when I can speak on this personally, I took a trip to DC to speak to somebody. And, I'm like, oh, I took this trip here, like, it's gonna go great. And the first 5 minutes I'm speaking to him, he tells me, no, I don't wanna co-sign on this bill. And I was just kind of like, well, okay. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. Like, I respect that decision, and I just kept being persistent with him. And I was like, I really want you to reconsider. How about I just leave you some information? You can get back to me. I left him my email, my contact information. I was like, in fact, I'll be here until this time. If you want to give me a call after lunch, maybe we can, come back. It's just when you show people that you're really dedicated, even if they are going to stick with that no, they're going to remember your face and remember your cause and be like, you know what? Maybe if I don't want to support this one thing, there's something else in the future that's related to this that I can support. So just, be persistent and just take it as it is. It is what it is. It's kind of how I live it.
I like that saying a lot, Alyssa. I do have another question. What advice would you give to young adults who are working with adults?
So this is interesting because I just recently became an adult and my experiences probably aren't the same because most of my advocacy this past year has been virtually. But definitely, I think the lines between like being a youth talking to youth and being an adult talking to adults is so different because like you're kind of the adult at the table now and I'm not used to that yet. But I think the advice is things don't really change. I mean, I still think I'm a youth and I think that conversations will always stay the same. But when you are speaking with adults, just try to remember that, like, no matter what title, position, or anything that they have, whatever table you're sitting at, you belong there as well. And to just don't try too hard to make yourself relevant. You already are. Just stay true to yourself, true to what you believe, and just make sure that when you're relaying your information, you're not coming off too aggressive. You're not really trying to be judgmental, but more understanding, kind of things like that. It's a little bit harder for you to pick up on like things like that, but adults can be very passive aggressive and so just be mindful of like how you're coming off, the tone in your voice, even your posture matters. So
Let's see. I have another question here from Jasmine. She said, I know that transitioning from high school to college is a big change. How have your advocacy efforts changed since you've been in college? How have your focuses changed? And where do you see yourself going as an adult advocate?
that is a really good question. So again, my advocacy this year has been virtual, so it's been a little bit different than somebody else might have been experiencing. but the transition is kind of difficult. For one, a university campus is much larger, so reaching your peers can be a little bit harder. And in certain universities and colleges, you're kind of divided, like based on what school you're in. So like I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences, and that's based on my major. So sometimes it's hard to really reach people in different schools or the colleges that they're in. But I definitely think that the plus side to it is that people, I think when you get a little bit older, people get a little bit more motivated and start to care a lot more about current issues or things that are going on around them. So that's always a plus. Like there's always there someone's always there to support you or someone new to join your cause. So
Well, that's really nice. But I have another question. So you learned a lot when you were younger on advocacy. How do you plan on taking those skills and the knowledge you've gained into your adulthood?
definitely. So a lot of those things have changed, especially with the e-cigarette epidemic, because we have more research out, more devices are out now. So I think most of the skills that I'm taking with me now that I'm at the college level is definitely just the communication skills. Um, we used to have this thing called mad skills when I was a youth advocate, and it's basically message, audience, and delivery, and things like those I'll definitely be taking with me. But now that I'm at the college level, the education part still really matters, especially because there's going to be a lot of people that you're going to run into that are going to be maybe more well educated on something than you are, or something like that. But just making sure that I do my research and always know who your audience is and make sure that who you're speaking to, like your information matches who they are. So I go to a HBCU, which is a historically Black college or university. So most of the research and studies that I give out or that I know like off the top of my mind pertain to my audience and my peers, which would be statistics on how tobacco is a health disparity issue and how it affects, Black youth and things like that. So it's really all, you'll use the same skills, but your information and your knowledge is going to change, and you are going to change your perspective. You're going to look at things a little bit differently, like I have, and you'll just be a little bit more understanding to certain issues and like the little subsections of the issues that you're talking about as well.
You know what, Allyssa, thank you. You had so many fantastic answers for all of the questions, and we want to thank you all for putting your questions in the chat and in the Q&A box. So now, before we wrap up, Allyssa, do you have any last minute advice for our advocates here on the summit today?
I definitely want to say that you guys are already heading in the right direction. Again, 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even done a webinar. Even just watching one, I would have been like, no, that's just too much for me. But you guys are definitely taking a step in the right direction. You guys are already becoming great advocates just by being here, engaging and learning. And I'm very proud of you guys, because I know that there's going to be one day where, I'm not going to be the one speaking on this issue, or I'm not going to be the guest speaker, but you guys are. So I can't wait to see the amazing things that you guys do. You guys are doing so great already.
Thank you so much, Allyssa. We really enjoyed having you here. We hope we can see you back again. So thank you everybody for again putting your questions in the chat and asking Allyssa. So if we can go ahead and say a nice warm welcome. Thank you to Allyssa in the chat. Thank you for being here, Allyssa. And we hope you have a great rest of your day today. Thank you, Alyssa. And
Bye,
now we're gonna so everybody can say bye to Allyssa. So now we're going to go ahead and transition it back to Kellen so that he can close out our summit for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the presentation.
Thank you, Kayla. Before we actually wrap up the entire summit, I want to show you a quick little really easy vaping prevention project. The vaping prevention project that we are going to learn how to do today is how to make a vision board. A vision board is a visual representation of your goals with a bunch of words and images. And we want you all to create your own vision board to help you stay on track with all of your advocacy efforts. Vision boards can be anything you want. It can be digital or it can be physical. It can be for yourself or it can be for your entire youth group. We've emailed you a guide on how to make a vision board, but let's take a look at let's take a look at what can be included in your vision board. So 5 of the things that need to go in your vision board is your my why statement, your refusal statements, key facts, and how you envision the first vape-free generation, and your tobacco prevention goals. A vision board, like I said, can be digital or physical. This can not only be your my why statement for yourself, but you can also make it for your group. Your refusal statements can be what your youth group can do, or what your own refusal statements are. The key facts can be for everybody, and how you envision the first vape-free generation can be for yourself, your own vision, or for your group's vision. So in this next example, let me kind of dive deeper into what a vision board can look like. So as you can see on the screen, you can see very front and up center that my why statement is right there on the front. It says that I am passionate about tobacco prevention because several people in my family use tobacco products and I hate to see them suffering from the effects. It's good to have your my why statement right there in front so that people can see it. Then off to the sides, you see two refusal statements. One of them saying, I am not interested in vaping because it is highly addictive and causes health problems such as seizures and lung failure. Instead, would you like to go get ice cream with me? This is a great refusal statement, and this is two great refusal statement examples that you can put on your vision board. You also have your goals, like passing a smoke-free ordinance, recruiting more people to your group, or educating as many people as possible. And then your envision, what you see the first vape-free generation being. As you can see here, the envision is the first vape-free generation as everyone being healthy and a significant decrease in respiratory illness. Then you can also see three different key facts that are very colorful that Say What has put out on their social media that you can use for your vision board. Now, moving on to my second example, you can see that not only can it be colorful, but it can also have lots of different graphics and pictures. Your my why statement can be not just in the center, but it can be the biggest part on the left or on the right side. This one says, I am passionate about tobacco prevention because I think it is wrong how big tobacco profiles certain groups of people. You can also see the two refusal statements, one in the top and one at the bottom right. You can also see their goals. They have three different goals: to start a youth group in my school, to pass a flavor ban in my city, and educate as many people as possible. You also have their envision statement at the bottom, and you also have two different facts about why vaping is bad. Now, before I move on, I kind of want to move it into, I think Kayla has a example for us of one of her vision boards that she has. Kayla, if you'd like, you can go ahead and display your vision board and take over.
Thank you, Kellen. So I'm going to move out of the way so you guys can see a little. Let's see this way. My screen is mirrored. So you can see my vision board here. It includes my refusal statement, which says, no thanks, I won't vape because it can lead to lung problems and death. And then it also includes my why statement and some key facts like 1,300 people die every day from smoking in the US, which includes 77 Texans. And then I also included a picture of me and my friends after we passed the smoke-free ordinance within my hometown. So here's another example of what it can look like. It can be super colorful, it can be fun, and it reflects your personality as an advocate. So Kellen, thank you for letting me share my vision board.
Of course. And if y'all want to keep looking at those examples, you can go to our social media and we will have posted Kayla and Max's vision board on our social media story on Instagram so that y'all can take a look at the great examples. Also, for your vision boards, you can be able to post that on social media. You can post it as a story, as a PSA. You can post it as an actual post and raise awareness that way. If you're not about social media, make your vision board physical. You can make a physical copy and hang it in your room, or you can make it as a group and hang it in the hallway of your school in your classroom. So if you do post it on Instagram or on Twitter or any social media platform, make sure to tag us at TXSayWhat so that we can give you the recognition that you deserve. So just to encap everything that we talked about today, the summit outline was first, learning about what advocacy was. Second, we learned about the 3 levels of advocacy. Third, we talked about peer pressure versus social pressure. Then fourth, we talked about how to become an expert, which is the first level of advocacy. And then we had a great guest speaker, Allyssa, who really taught us how to be an advocate. So like I said, unfortunately, it is time for us to go. But what's next? Well, for y'all can plan out your vision board project. We did email you that guide, like I said earlier. You can email pictures of your completed project back to the Say What staff or post it on social media and tag Say What. You also will receive your 2 hours of community service certificate after the summit ends, and register and attend for our last summit on April 24th. I want to personally challenge y'all once we get off of Zoom today to go ahead and go straight to the Say What website and go ahead and register for the summit so that you don't forget about it. Alrighty, guys. So it is time for us to close. So I am going to turn it over to the teen ambassadors to say our final goodbyes.
Bye, y'all. I really enjoyed presenting with you guys today, and I really loved engaging with you guys in the chat.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really enjoyed having you guys here, keeping us company, and we hope to see you in our next summit.
Thank you everyone for coming. You were a great audience and it was super fun engaging with you guys. See you in the last summit.